Gig Gab, episode 446 for Monday, September 9th, National When Pigs Fly Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab. Welcome back to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians. As usual, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton. And today, returning to the show without much sleep, I'm sure, our new parent again, our favorite other drummer who likes to play songs by female artists as well, Mike Schulte. Thanks for coming back and being my guest co-host this week.
It's a fitting day too. When pigs fly, pork tornadoes, like this is just a fitting, this whole scenario. I love it, man.
That's right. That's right. Yep. So there you go. Yeah, I don't know. It's National When Pigs Fly Day. There you go.
How do you find that? Is there like a website? Because if you notice, if anybody out there does their social mediaing and stuff like that, Facebook's pretty good in the back end of telling you what that day is. If it's a well-known national thing, like the other day, it said it was National Beard Day or something like that. So I was like, well, then I'm going to make a post about it because we're bearded dudes in a band, you know? So sometimes if you're looking for content ideas, when you're back in the scheduling portion of Facebook, it on the very top, it tells you if it's like a holiday or if it's some sort of national day. So that's, if you're running out of content ideas, that's not a bad option for you.
Yeah. There are several websites that track the day, and it's not like that today is only National When Pigs Fly Day,
it's a
right?
Million things, isn't it?
There's a million things. And I do this for all of my shows because, as you pointed out, it is good content, right? And last week we did one with Business Brain on, I forget what it was. It was like National something Marketing Day or whatever. I was like, okay, well, let me look at this because it was business, so okay, But as I looked at it, it was like, wait, this holiday has existed since 2018, and it was invented by somebody who is in that business. I was like, wait a minute. We all need to invent our own holiday. So yes, use the calendar to like inspire your content ideas and all. I think that's a great idea when applicable. But also, I mean, why not invent a holiday that is related? Why not create National Pork Tornado Day?
I actually just took a note. I was like, let's see if I can do that because why not, right?
Why not? Yeah. I mean, why not create a holiday for your band? I'm definitely going to do this.
We already make false claims anyway about like it's national take a friend to a pork tornado show and stuff like that. So we might as well just actually do it. Might as well come up with the actual day and have the certificate and everything
and
like
do
that.
Whatever the thing is that gets it on the thing. Well, so there's a link in these show notes, but in every show notes for Gig Gab to the National When Pigs Fly Day. But it's a website that's like National Day Today or National Today or something. So I'm sure they have a way of submitting holidays to them. And so just go submit one.
And also, guys, it's social media. Literally nobody cares. If you want to invent your own band's holiday and say that today's that day, then do it. And just say it.
Just freaking
make a post about it. Like, who cares?
Who cares?
Nobody cares. It'll be gone tomorrow. No one will see it ever again after this.
But if you do it every year, it'll become a thing and your fans will do. In fact, with this, I do it on my other podcast. So I do it on Mac Geek Gab too. We did a live Mac Geek Gab at a conference recently, and it was at night after dinner. People were having drinks and stuff. So it was, at Mac Geek Gab after darkish. And they set up the stage with the couch up there and stuff. So it was great. And we get to the room after dinner, the same conference room we've been in all day. There's this couch and there are 3 bags on the stage. And it's like, and they have, our names on them, Dave, Pete, Adam, the 3 co-hosts of the show. It's like, okay. And I said to the guys, I'm like, let's not open these yet. Let's open them during the show. Like, no one was talking about why these bags were there, but clearly they were there for a reason. Right. So I don't know, midway through the show, I'm like, all right, we're doing this. And we opened we opened the bags. We actually polled the crowd and asked, should we open the bags or like first or find out what they're about first. And the crowd was like, open them first. So in the bag was a spoon and a plastic spoon and a thing of like Jell-O, like a single serving, like snack, you know, like you'd find in the kid's lunchbox or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm still like, this is still, none of us, we were all at a loss. And one of our longtime listeners and fans stands up and he's like, today is National Paper Bag Day and National Plastic Spoon Day. And so it was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing that the audience like latches on to this stuff and you create a thing. So do it with your band, create a thing. You need more than just the shows you play.
Oh, yeah. And now more and more than ever. I mean, you know, I'm the social media guy for the podcast and the band. And it's like anything that you thought that you cracked the code, like last year, let's say you're like, oh, if I share the Facebook event and I actually take like the shareable link and then but I put it in the comments, but then I put a photo of the Facebook event. That's what really gets going. But by the time you start implementing that, it's already changed. It's moved on to something else. In fact, you remember when, like, I was thinking about this the other day. Remember when Facebook events were like, Facebook wanted you to use events so badly, and they were just, anytime you created one, it threw it into everybody's feeds, and anytime somebody said they were going, it threw it in the feeds, and it just pushed it. Now it's like, it doesn't even matter if you make the only reason a Facebook event seems to matter is that it's there. It's sort of a calendar now on your Facebook page. If somebody's actually looking for it, they go in, they click it, and they go, where are they playing? But it's so weird to me because every time it doesn't feel like they're pushing Facebook events right now, but every time you create a post, it's like, this sounds like an event. Do you want to turn this into an event? It's like, no, because you're literally not going to do anything with it. So no, I don't want to turn it into an event.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you go out of your way and share them and all that, you can get a little bit, but you got to boost them if you got to pay if you want people to see them. And
you
really
can't even schedule them anymore. It's just like, it's such a weird, and that's the one thing people ask me about social media all the time. Like, how do you do it? How do you get engagement? It's like constantly be observing and changing. You should see my phone. Pretty much all my screenshots are just if I see something uniquely interesting on someone else's Facebook. You know, if I'm scrolling through and I see a meme, I'm like, oh yeah, I could turn that on into a meme for us later. Or if
there's a there. Yeah, exactly.
And whenever I'm like, okay, time to schedule some posts, I just slide back through my screenshots and go, oh yeah, that would be something to do. So whatever other people are doing, there's a reason you're seeing it in your feed. Is because for some reason that whatever they did struck a chord with the algorithm. So you should probably copy it, and feel free to go to the Pork Tornadoes page and copy anything you do.
Of course.
Just go for it.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. All right. I will put a link to the Pork Tornadoes Facebook page here.
But keep in mind, by the time you get it and implement, it's probably already done and something else is taking over. So yeah, exactly.
But still, like, good to use as inspiration. This new band that I've joined, Casual Gravity, they, like, one of the reasons I joined them is, and we talked about this last time, is that they do more. They do this, right? They do more than just the shows. They have a whole YouTube series that they call the Casual Chronicles. And like Tom, our lead singer, scripts it, and then we film it. Now, they haven't filmed an episode since I joined the band, so I haven't been in any of these episodes yet. But he writes a whole script for it, records the video, edits the video, puts out the episodes. We played a gig. I played my first 2 gigs with them this weekend, which I suppose we should talk about. But we played, the second gig was at this campground, so it was kind of a private party. These people are like professional campers. They have a gorgeous setup. And the night before we played, they sat down in one of the guys' like trailers and watched a bunch of our Casual Chronicles, and they knew more about the like little hidden gems and Easter eggs. There's a whole thing with Skittles that happened in one episode, and they all had Skittles, and it was like, this is why I joined this band, because there's more than just the shows. You have to give people a backstory or something to latch onto in between the shows so that it drives their demand for it. I think.
You absolutely. I'm looking at the Facebook page right now, and like they clearly do it right. It's more than just a band. Anybody can start a band. Anybody can do what we all do, but they've created it into something else. The email address being yourmom@casualgravity.com. Like little things like
exactly.
that.
Yes.
It sort of makes all the difference. We bought a link like 10 years ago we wanted party.com to be our website, but of course party.com's taken.
No
so
way.
our alternative website is partydotcom.com. So party.com.com.
Love that.
Yeah, and we just have it, and we'll put it out from time to time. And I'm looking at these guys, they're all looking like rockers on stage. They all got jeans on and black shirts and stuff. It's I think you probably made the right choice on that one.
I am feeling already. I am it has been so first of all, we did 2 gigs back to back, Saturday and Sunday of Labor Day weekend, and they went great. All of this is material with which I am familiar listening to, but most, in fact, more than half of these songs I've never played before. So it was a lot to like get up to speed enough to go play these gigs, but that's fine. I mean, I signed up for that. I knew what I was getting into. And
what is the genre? Like, what are they doing?
Hard rock. So we're doing like Van Halen, Journey, Rat, Poison, Skid Row, Motley Crue, but also like some like ZZ Top, and we'll do a Robert Palmer song here and there, like those kinds of things. Those songs I've all like the songs in the general business realm, like Tush by ZZ Top and Bad Case of Lovin' You by Robert Palmer, like those I've played before, no problem. But the Motley Crue songs and the Skid Row songs, I've just never been in a band with someone that could sing those legitimately. Right. So if I've ever played them, it's always kind of been like as a request, and it's like, okay, you get what you wish for,
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be great.
But man, those songs live like rent free in everyone's head. We've heard them so many times, right?
Yes. But
it is different. It is. You think you're like, oh yeah, I know that song. But then you actually sit down and play and go, like you need that time to actually get your muscles trained to it, though, because your ears are already there, but your muscles aren't necessarily.
My ears are there, but like a song like Round and Round by Rat, right, which I've played once before years ago, kind of as a joke. That song is difficult. It is difficult, but it's also tricky. It's like a prog rock song in terms of its arrangement. There are segments where it's like, oh, go play 2 bars of this weird thing before you go into the chorus, or Same Old Situation, right? Motley Crue. It's the same thing. It's like you're doing a thing and then suddenly it's like, oh, there's a 2-measure drum like solo thing before the chorus, or Fire Woman by The Cult, right? There's like an 8-measure drum solo in that thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you better get those hits right, man, and know how many bars it is before you come in, because it like you think you know the song, but you don't know how to play it, or at least I didn't. So yeah.
Did they have a drummer that just left the band? Was that more of like a firing, or was that more of like a mutual parting of ways? And you can totally be like, Mike, shut up. Let's move on to the next topic. That's totally fine. No,
we can talk about this because unfortunately the previous drummer kind of went on social media and told his version of the story. So they had a drummer for a long time. This band's been together about 10 years, and then, as it happened with many bands, COVID kind of changed the dynamic of things. And the first drummer, Anthony, never really settled back into the band after COVID. They're all still friends. It's all great. He's like, I've never met him, but he seems like a nice guy. I've kind of interacted with him on social media. And so since then, they've kind of, they brought in a drummer that they thought was going to work, and basically jumped on the first person that they found that could play without really checking the personality vibe.
And they didn't check the hang out.
Yeah, but also the dedication. Like They like to play songs. It doesn't have to be exact. It's not that kind of band, but they want to get endings tight. They want to get beginnings tight. This band writes sets, and there are sections of the set where it's like reserved for talking, but then it's like you move from song to song. And I'll tell you what, man, those first 2 gigs were a freaking workout. Like it was like, oh, because none of those songs are like walks in the park. Like, my heart rate's up, which is great. Like I love it. But to go and play 5 of those songs in a row, it's like, okay, whoo, I need a drink.
Dude, it's like a drug though, man, because we made the choice about a year ago. We used to just like have fun and tell jokes and like, you assume that everybody thinks you're funny and that everybody wants to hear you talk. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's just this power of you're on stage and everybody's watching you, so you think they want to hear you, and we used to just do it all the time. And then one day we were like opening, or no, we were headlining and a band was playing before us who's very good, and they just like, we just sat there and started going, oh my God. I started pulling out my timer in between every song and going, they just had the crowd in the palm of their hands, and now they're just slowly losing them.
Yes.
And they'd take like 60 seconds in between every song, and and tell some jokes, and you think it's funny, but we immediately said, no. We don't talk anymore. And we made a conscious effort to say no more talking. And man, now that we do this, 5 seconds is too long. Like we all look at each other. We're like, let's go. When's the next song?
Let's go.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, man, I think we've seen the subconscious effects from the crowd. They don't have a chance to go, hey Brenda, you want to go check out, let's go get a beer in the bathroom. They don't have the chance to talk to the person next to them. Next song. And then we started, I don't know how it happened. I still feel there needs to be some sort of a connection. You don't just not say anything.
Yes.
But so there's always this one point of the show where we will stop the song and I will grab my wireless and walk out to the front and just say some sort of a heartfelt, like, hey, I just had a baby and it's been hard, but these are the moments that makes it easy for me to be away from home, and let's get a picture together, everybody. Like, so they still want the interaction with you, but they don't want to hear your inside jokes on stage, So I'm glad that they are doing that.
There are I agree with you 100%. There are exceptions to this rule, but generally speaking, whenever I dig into these exceptions, I find out, the lead singer also does stand-up comedy successfully, right? Because that's essentially what you're doing, right? Like Bowling for Soup is a great example.
Yeah,
Jarrett
Blink-182.
Blink-182, right. Those guys are masters at that part of the craft. And I will say that Tom, the lead singer, and I have a decent dynamic. We've been talking a lot since I joined this band, even though these were our first 2 gigs. And in the moments where he stops, we'll have 2, maybe 3 of them per set. And there is a little bit of banter. And the crowd so far seems to like it. But it's not every song. And it shouldn't be every song.
And you should, and to anybody out there that doesn't really want to jump full into what I just said, you got to build those blocks where there's like the 4, 5, 6 song blocks where do not, under any circumstance, stop in between any of these songs and start saying stuff. Like we go through these 6 songs and then we can have a second to take a breather, grab a drink, say something,
say a stupid thing, move on.
That's the easy way to like implement that a little bit.
It is, and that's what Casual Gravity does, and it works. But the nice part about this is it is truly a show at that point, right? It changes from here's a band on stage playing songs like generic cover band to being a show. And you're right, the dress is part of it. The stage presentation, they have these portable, like freestanding banners, if you will, with the band's logo on it that are basically acoustically neutral. They're screens so they can go in front of an amp on stage. Exactly. It looks great.
Tidies up the stage a lot.
Tidies up the stage. They have 2 of them, so there's some uniformity, to either side of the stage. It looks like you're going to see a show. And then they have an intro tape that they play before the opening song, right? Like it's a show, and the end of each set is scripted to give like, here's where the song, stops. Tom says a thing, come back, and he has a pat thing that he says, like, if you've ever, if it's the end of the first set, this is going to be the end of our first set. But if you have ever been to see Casual Gravity before, you know that the second set is even better than the first, and then we hit a big chord and the song is out. And so a lot of work to get to that point, and it is not perfected yet.
No.
And nobody is like, and the imperfect parts that we had this past weekend, which, I mean, we all knew were going to happen.
Yeah.
Nobody was like freaked out about it. It wasn't, right? It wasn't, oh my God, this is terrible. It was like, okay, that was great. Now here's some things that we want to polish up, but we're all on the same page about that. And that's the part that I think they were missing with their prior guy. And yeah, he did not know he was being replaced until after he had played what turned out to be his final gig with him.
Right.
And they like this, none of this was my choice. In fact, I met this guy because I told you he has this idea of forming a Taylor Swift, all male Taylor Swift tribute band. And so that's what we were talking about. And then I said to him, he was like, yeah, we just replaced our drummer and our bass player, earlier this year. And I was like, oh, too bad we didn't meet then because, your schedule and everything about you seems like it would be good for me. And he was like, wait, what? And he's like, are you looking? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, well, we're not being very public about this, but we are quietly auditioning drummers to find the right person, and we're taking it slow. And I was like, oh, if you had led with that, I would have run screaming because I don't want a band that operates underhandedly. But, it's like, I don't think you set me up for this. And
good for them though, for like understanding that you got to get the right people in place. If you want to advance and get better, like I think the right people in place is one of the most important things a band can do. There's always that band, them, you're picturing them right now in your head where they're all so good and you like everybody, but that guy, we don't like, no one really likes that guy, and the band doesn't really like that guy, and that guy's not great. But they're just like, well, but he's been in the band for so long, like we feel bad. It's like, well, then you're stuck. You're absolutely stuck where you're at,
and
unless you make that decision.
I've been in that band.
Yeah.
We had a rehearsal on Tuesday, whatever, like after the 2 gigs, and it was basically, we learned a couple of new songs from their set list, but it was basically all right, let's polish up some things. I came with my work list of like, okay, here's the thing that happens in this song that we need to fix. And they came with their work list. Like everybody came with their work list. We went through the list. And the nicest part was we were working out some harmonies. And that's another fun thing for me is they actually, all 4 people, including me in this band, can sing, but they have not really leveraged harmonies in a way that is part of the band's identity, and they want to. And I'm like, oh, I'm your guy. Like, what's up? I know what's up. I know how to do it. And I think that's part of why they were so excited to have me. And so we were working out some harmonies for like the beginning of Journey's Any Way You Want It, or Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name, or whatever, which previously Tom had been doing with like a chorus pedal thing, like an
you
effect
got the
pedal
that can sing. Do it.
I'm like, dude, my goal is to make you never use that thing ever again.
Awesome.
And he's like, great. He's on board. I'm like, okay, good. Now I can join this band, right? And so we were working out the beginnings of these tunes, and the nicest part was, and this happened with other songs where we were working out harmonies too. The guitar player was like, he's a good singer. He's not someone that would say he's a singer, right? He doesn't have, to say he doesn't have confidence probably undersells it, but I didn't know coming in that he could sing as well as he does, right? And how to, like, I can fit him into harmonies in perfect places. And so I did. And after we went through it, he said, okay, great. He says, I will sing, it just basically regurgitated the lesson we had just gone there, the arrangement we had just gone through. He said, great, I sing here and here, I sing this part, you guys take the others. Great, I know it. And I know that we're not going to need to have this conversation again.
Nice.
Like, so I've been in some bands where it's like 10 years later, it's like, how do you still not know where your part is? You might have trouble finding the note, like whatever. I get that. That's fine.
It's at.
But you know what? Yeah, you know what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. So,
dude, that actually just reminded me.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it. Everybody is eager to improve the product, but not at the expense of sapping the joy from the band. We're still in the honeymoon period here. I'll admit that. But it seems like the perfect balance of like retentiveness and, by the way, we're just doing this for fun.
Yeah. And that's a hard blend. We can talk a little more about that later, but I had one story that somehow reminded me of. There's a guy talking about the one band member that is maybe holding you down. There's an incredible guy. I'm not going to say any names or anything like that. I met him through, many of the cover band groups. He's got a cover group around the US, and it just so happened Pork Tornadoes were going to be playing in that city, and we were hoping to find like a local opener. And I was like, oh, I know this guy. He's super awesome, and he's got a band, and they sound great. Like, let's do it. And so we set up where they would open the show. And I don't know, just like maybe it was a bad day. Maybe there was a lack of miscommunication, but we got there. We backlined. We sound checked. We were selling tickets for our show, and they were just going to be opening it. And we got off the stage, and the guitar player for this band, who I'd never met, he goes up on stage, and he just like drops all of his stuff and goes, are you gonna move all this effing shit? Like just yells it as loud as he can, because we backlined everything, and we said, excuse me. He goes, whose is this? And move it now. I'm setting up. We were like, no. It was silent. It was silence for about 15 seconds, because we're like, wait, what? Is this is this funny? Is this a joke? And he did it to the wrong person. It was our bass player's thing, and that's the wrong person to come after. And so he went right for him and was like, well, then you can just pack up your stuff and get out of here, because you're not playing anymore. Like that kind of a conversation started. Yeah. The band calmed him down, but then for the rest of the night, he proceeded to like talk badly to our techs and just took his time getting off stage and was just throwing a fit the whole night. And it just really sucks, because the guy that I know that we communicated with he had to basically apologize hand and foot to everybody in the venue, in the band, to just be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like this, every once in a while he's kind of like this. And it's like, man, you can't expect to get anywhere if you always have to worry about like what some guy's how his reaction's gonna be to a club owner or to another band. It's like, I felt terrible for him and just overall just the scenario, but it's like, man, you gotta look at the overall, how everybody in your band is sometimes. And if there's that guy, like that's bad. That's
really bad. Oh yeah. And
we go to that town all the time, and we would have totally they're a great band and like good, otherwise really good people. We would have totally kept collaborating and been like, hey, you want to come to Iowa? We got some, but now we would never recommend that band to go play anywhere, because that guy, that looks badly on us. So it really sucks, because I haven't really talked to the guy much since then, but like I could tell he just was like, it was one of those things that it felt like it had happened before. I'm like, shit, dude, I'm sorry, man. Like, I don't know how you're still dealing with that.
God, right. Yeah. It's not like, this has never happened before. I don't know.
That's different. Hey, right? He's having a really bad time at home right now. And then he apologized. Nope. He didn't apologize. Didn't say anything.
Nothing. Oh, nope. Yeah. No. No, you can't. That is a liability to have in your band. This reminds me of a story that happened recently. I won't name which band it was I was playing with. Thankfully, I've played with like 18 different bands this summer. So but it did happen recently this summer, where we played a gig. It went great. Crowd loved it. Fun venue. It was our first time at this venue, but the agent that kind of booked us is someone that, the band has worked with before, whatever. And we had, there were a ton of people there, some of which were people that were partners and family of the band members, as sometimes happens, right? Your family or friends come out to see the band. Well, evidently, and we found this out after the fact, which is the worst, but at least we found it out. I was thankful that we found this out. Evidently, someone related to the band, evidently service was slow, because it was like a restaurant and bar or whatever. And one of the people related to the band started getting mouthy with the staff, this is terrible. You need to be faster. I've worked in the service industry. you can't treat people like this. We're guests of the band. And started name dropping the booking agent and manager of the thing. And like, I'm going to tell this person about how bad it is. And of course, the staff not only reported it back to that same person, also took a picture of the offenders so that there was no like, oh, it must not have been so-and-so. Like, well, nope, we saw a picture that they witnessed, identified in a lineup. Ooh. Yep. And thankfully we were able to smooth things over with and I say I was involved in absolutely none of this.
Nope. Good call.
But it was able to be smoothed over with the manager, booking agent. I think we will wind up continuing to play at this place. But I think this particular guest is not invited to be there anymore. And I don't blame them for that.
You can fix those. You can fix issues like that if it's like, oh, shoot, we're like, you know what, we understand that this was a one-time thing. Apologies, we've made the corrections here. Yeah, you can fix that, but you only got one more chance after that.
That's
so
it.
If that happens again, it's over.
It's over. Yeah, it's such a and it shocked me that would happen. Like, if I would like to think if I was in, the opposite scenario. So I'm not the one on stage. I'm the one that, I'm the guest. I'm the plus one, right? If I thought there were problems, like I would not start name dropping. And like, it just flabbergasts me that that's where someone would choose to go in that position. Like, if I'm somebody's plus one or somebody's guest, I am like hyper aware of being on my best behavior, like more than I would be if it was just me. And I'm usually okay. But sometimes we all have those moments. If I'm there as a guest, man, I would be like hyper aware. Like we were super. I lead a charmed life, Mike. This summer. Well, earlier this year, as you know, the show has changed, right? Like, Paul's not here anymore, so I have lots of different guest hosts, and
how long
here we
ago,
are.
When was Paul's last show? How long has it been now? Have you been? Is it like 4 or 5 months now? 6 months?
Officially, Paul left the show at the end of 23, but he came back on February 19th, which was the 9th anniversary of the show.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
We've been trying to coordinate our schedules to get him back on, but his life is still mayhem, which is why he was unable to.
Yeah,
that's why he left the show anyway. It was. Yes,
Paul,
it turns out.
I hope Paul's still listening, but yeah, Paul, we all want to hear from you eventually when things settle down. It'll be awesome to get like a huge recap from you since the last time you were on. And I miss doing like this with him too, because we've had a couple of moments like where suddenly the phone will ring and it's like, oh, it's time for what would happen pre-gig gab. You know, it's like vent time, and it's like, okay, great, yeah, but so I've been trying to mix up the guests. I try to have like you, other musicians that are kind of doing the same thing that we as an audience are all doing. And then I try to get folks that come in, like teach us about sound and different things like that. And I had Robert Scoville on, and he is Kenny Chesney's sound engineer. He was with Petty and Rush, and like he is the guy in the industry that everyone else who does that job learns from. He is and he's the nicest guy. He's so generous with his expertise and his time. And he knew that my wife was a Chesney fan, and he's like, well, and I told him, I said, we're probably going to come to one of the shows, and if possible, I'd love to come meet you. And he's like, well, how about if you watch the show from the soundboard from front of house? No, that's not for me.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know about that, man.
And so we did, obviously, because, I even said to him that day after we had met, I was like, dude, if we're going to be in the way up there, like, our seats are fine. We're going to, like, it's great to say hi, but, you got to go do your job. Like, I don't want to be in your way. He's like, wow, but it's so much better up there. You're like 3 feet up, you get a better view. I'm like, okay, now I'm done saying no, thank you. We're going to do it.
I tried. And then, of course, you were probably like, on the best behavior you've ever been in your entire life, because you now reflect him and he's your friend.
I now reflect him.
Yes.
Right. And what I did, his wife was on tour with him the whole time. And so I took my cues from her, as did
Yes.
Lisa. Like, if she was singing along and applauding, then it was okay for us to do the same. But otherwise, we are in a work zone.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
We are, this is not like the concert zone happens 3 feet below us. Like, I get this. And there was one guy up there who was a guest of one of the crew, obviously, because there was no version of a VIP pass that would get you there on the front of house board, unless someone who works on the front of house board invited you up there. That, like,
Yes.
There are other places for VIPs to be. In fact, above us was a VIP deck or whatever, but or above and behind us. But you know, otherwise, you like, this is a work zone. Like, obviously, there was a guy up there taking videos, and going like right up close to the people doing their job, and like filming their hands and then like their faces and stuff, and they were all.
Yep.
This was the last show of the tour, so I think everybody was kind of in a good mood.
Yes.
Nobody flew off the handle at this guy, but like he would leave someone, and like the guys would like shrug, like, "Whoa, what the heck is this?"
There's a weird entitlement going on in the world right now that people just think, I can just do what I want, right? I paid money to get in here.
Yeah, but you didn't. Like, you probably didn't pay money. That's the thing. It's like, you're someone's guest. And gosh, I said nothing to Robert. I was basically right next to him the whole time. And I said nothing to him unless he engaged me first. And it was cool. Like, watching him do his thing was such a treat. Such a treat, obviously. But also, he had like small little monitors there that had all the talkback mics from the stage.
Oh, no way. Cool.
Yeah.
So you could hear that?
Yeah, it was cool to hear, you know, some of the things. I mean, most of it was not directed at him. It was, you know, to the monitor engineer.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Or the band talking amongst themselves. They added a song. They added a couple of covers to the set for the final night. They did like The Joker and Three Little Birds or whatever. And when that ended, it was fun to hear the band like saying to each other, like, "That was awesome. That was great. Oh yeah, woohoo!" You know, and then on to the next song. But we would hear the name of the song and the count off. We didn't hear a click, but we heard, you know, the name of the song and every count off as things started and stuff. So it was kind of cool to, you know, to see all that behind the scenes and get that experience. What an amazing thing. So like I said, I lead a charmed life, but you got to behave.
You have to. I had a guy come up to me, longtime Pork Tornadoes fan, the other day going, "Hey man, I don't know if you knew this, but like your mic wasn't working like most of the show last time I saw you." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, on the songs I heard you, but it seemed like you were trying to talk and we couldn't hear you in between songs." I was like, "Oh yeah, I got a little switch and that goes just to the band." They're like, "What?" You know, like, is there any way to hear what you guys say? I'm like, well, I mean, like, maybe we'll record it someday and you can hear what actually goes. But we use that hot shot, that pedal. So I've got a little pedal board down below that my wireless comes out, goes into a TC Helicon for some effects and stuff like that.
Okay.
Then it goes into a hot shot where it splits it into 2 channels. Yeah. So So input goes in, output 1 is my main vocal out. So if you're not doing anything to that pedal, it is unimpeded. My main vocal goes to channel 16. That's where you have it. But the minute you hold down that button, it switches to output 2. And then output 2 is another line that goes to channel 31, which is just the talk back, which is just what the band can hear, just for the ears. So it's a really great way to I've seen bands where they'll have that microphone just sitting there somewhere on stage, but this is a great way if you're especially a drummer or a keyboard player who just, why set up another mic and another cable when you can just have that little switch there. It's pretty nifty.
I would think this Chesney's band had each member had a separate talkback mic.
I'm guessing, yeah.
But their talkback mic also was on a toggle, because otherwise you'd just be getting bleed everybody would hate that. So there's a mute switch or something. Yeah, of course. Like there would have to be. And so, but they were using those. Yeah. Cause it was pretty clear when I was hearing from the keyboard players, microphone, and it seemed like he was like the MD of the
Gotcha.
band, or the
Yep.
conductor at the very least. Because if they were in a vamp at the end of a song, he would be the one to cue the end. He'd say "fall off," and then they would do their thing. But anytime his mic opened up, all I would hear is, like, before he spoke, I would just hear the wash of cymbals.
Yep.
And it's because his mic was aimed, basically at him, but also at the drums. And
Yep.
I think they run a quiet stage other than drums. I think they're all on modelers or whatever. So, yeah.
I was one day away from performing with Kenny Chesney, actually, about a year ago to the day.
Really?
So my wife and I got married in St. John, Virgin Islands. I've been there like 12 times now. It's our place, right? And that's where Kenny has a house, and that's he's well known on the island there. And
I think the whole crew just came back from the islands. Yeah, after the
I'm
tour.
sure they were, man. Yeah, it's a good time to be down there, actually. But we went down and played a wedding, actually, at this little beach bar in St. John, and the people that got married that we know are very good friends with Kenny, and he showed up the next night. He was trying to get there. And so he showed up the next night and sat in with the band that was playing. I was like, oh my God, it would have been so perfect if he would have sat in with us, man.
Yeah. That's yeah. Well, maybe someday in the future, right? Like, pretty sure he still has his place. He posted a picture the other day, of like a lone chair on the beach or something. And I was like, yeah, man, good for you.
It is pure paradise down there.
Yeah,
That's
good
for
for
sure.
you. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. You mentioned we're definitely in ADD fest here, but you mentioned using a TC Helicon vocal effects pedal. I have a strong disdain and even a hatred for vocal effects pedals in general, and it mainly comes from the part of me that is like Dave, the audio engineer, because they can cause huge issues if the person bringing it does not have it set up in the way that it's going to work in a friendly method with the rest of the sound system. I know that there's a way to use these things that is productive. There's also lots of other ways to use them that are awful. So I am curious, what do you use yours for, and how do you set it up? How do you how do you make sure the gain doesn't change in an undesired way and all that stuff?
I think we're doing a bit of overkill. The whole band runs them, the rack mounted units. And I think it stemmed from us a long time ago deciding that we were going to be completely self-contained, right? Zero reliability on anyone else, because we go to all these different places. We could never employ like a full-time sound engineer who was always with us. We still have our rotation of like 3 guys that one of them will probably be there. They all have different styles. And then there's the times where we were just in Omaha. We had 2 back-to-back shows where it was our first time in these places, and they had a sound system there. They had a competent guy that was there, and we couldn't afford to bring our guy, so we just said fine. So it comes from that ability to just say, we've got everything we need. Here's your whip. Just make us sound good out there. So the singers all use it mostly for like just delays and like reverb and stuff like that on their vocals. Interestingly enough, that's just how they've always, Mason especially is very thick on like delay and reverb on his voice coming out. It's sort of just the way it's always sounded and the way he wants it to sound. So none of them are using like pitch correction or like vocal processing. I think so. Again, I think it's very much overkill on this. Mine, the only reason that I have this is to do this monster low octave voice that I do on Miley Cyrus. We Can't Stop. It's all party. We can do what. So like, that's the only reason that I have an $800 TC Helicon rack. But whatever, you know what? It's tucked away in my little rack. Everything's in there. And if I ever need anything else, it's there. But I'll tell you what, I wish I was a little smarter on this. There are a few tweaks that they put into theirs that they've worked on over the years just to round some sounds out. Maybe throw a little bit of EQ in there. But yeah, ultimately we're just kind of using it for that kind of stuff. And then I believe so I send MIDI clock from our Ableton computer And then I'm controlling all of their tap tempos for their guitars and for their vocals. So it's automatic, right? So clock changes to a different tempo. It goes, I think the TC Helicon, in fact, is the thing that does the tap tempos and the delays and all that stuff. So maybe there is a little bit of an extra thing that we do, but that's pretty much it. But it comes from those years of just being a self-contained band that we had to make sure all of our effect, we didn't have a guy like running delays on vocals and doing cool stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all it is.
And you're all used to you're all used to that in your ears?
Yep.
Okay, because like I like some vocal reverb in my ears. I don't necessarily like lots of it. Really what I like is a wash of reverb so that I don't feel like I'm tight in my head.
Just
right?
the overall reverb, right?
Yeah. But if each person is using a different reverb, it never sounds like, and this is me being like super picky about things, but it makes a difference. It never sounds like all of the vocals are in the same reverb chamber because they are literally not, right? And so things get weird. But I guess if you're using, tap tempo for delays and even slapback, like maybe there's some synchronicity there. So, okay.
Yeah, I wish there was a better answer for like, oh, well, we use this programming. And actually those big rack mounted ones, like the gain is the same every time we turn them on. Those ones that go on like the mic stand, there's a dial on the side that you always have to, like every show, you're readjusting your dial, readjusting your gain. These are actual like digital where I go in and say, when it starts, this is my gain, no matter what, here we go, So
and as long as it's the same singer on the same microphone, which of course it is, then it all sort of, okay. I can respect that. And more importantly, I could accept that if I was your engineer.
So far, no one's yelled at us yet. So like
that means you're using them right.
Tell us.
They would tell you, yeah. Well, the big problem is when somebody kicks one of those on and they use it full time for themselves and they have a massive amount of compression on it, and it's like, okay, well. And they use monitor wedges, and it's like, great. So things are just going to feed back all night because you have this monster compression with no like gating or anything. And what are we going to do about this? Like, I need some control. But the only reason I need control in those moments is because the person who's controlling it doesn't know how to use it properly. That's really what the issue is. It's like, I need to control that thing because you don't know how to yet. Let me show you, So
I think most people probably use those for like the harmony pedals. They're probably solo artists. That's probably why you use those, I think. And even those, man, I'm just not this is just me being a music fan. Like if I'm over at this bar and there's a guy in the corner singing on the harmony pedals, I'm sure it's fine to the general public, but in general, I just don't like the weird digital sounding.
It's weird. I don't know that it adds anything.
Correct.
If you're just using it for that, like you said, if you're using it to drop the pitch for an effect, great. But if you think that the song needs harmonies and you're a one-person thing, and so you're going to have this weird auto-tuned
robot singing
set
along with
to
you.
A major third harmony thing singing with you, it's going to be weird. And I don't know that the people who notice, like you and me, are not going to like it in most cases.
Yeah.
And then there's everyone else who doesn't notice and doesn't care whether
it's on or not. And they don't even
realize.
They're like,
right.
Oh, whatever. Like I don't know what a harmony is. What are we doing here?
Yeah, what are we doing here? Why does it sound like that's interesting. Maybe that's what they get. But like
robots? Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just don't it doesn't.
But that's just me being a guy that can't sing and doesn't play solo acoustic music. So maybe if I did, I'd have a totally different feeling about it.
I definitely wouldn't.
I wish I could sing because then I would go full-time musician and just play coffee houses on Wednesday and Thursday. And then, but nope, can't sing.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. While we're speaking of gear, I have to reprise my love for the new Earthworks drum mics. I talked a lot about that snare mic, the DM17, when I reviewed it. And that snare mic, it's also a tom mic. It's everything. I've used it for every gig since I talked about it. I've imposed it on every engineer that I've worked with, and they've all been like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." it sounds great, and the clip onto the snare, it's so easy. It works on toms and snares. It's just like, so everything I said about that has proven out to be true. I also started using the overheads, the SR20 Gen 2s, and the kick mic, the what is that? The oh god, it like I forget what they call this kick mic. The DM6. That kick mic, it's like unfair to the rest of the industry. You just put this on your kick and it sounds like a kick drum. You can season to taste if you need, but I was shocked with a flat EQ. It was like, what?
Nice.
This just, it sounds, and it like gives you, gives front of house enough low end and but enough of the click, and like it sounds like a rock kick drum. It's freaking amazing. And these overheads, the SR20s, like it sounds like my drums through them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like
in my ears, it sounds like my drums, not like some processed approximation of like, you're hitting a cymbal. Like the cymbals and the toms sound like cymbals and toms, as opposed to some overheads, like, they say they're flat, but the toms sound good, but the cymbals sound weird and washy and trashy, or the cymbals sound good and the toms sound super thin or whatever. It just sounds like my drums.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
I use the kick in, kick out method. So I have the Beta 91 on the inside, and then the Audix, what is it, D6 on the outside.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just recently, just after struggling to get that Beta 91 to stay where it's at inside of the drum, I just finally, at the beheading of my sound guy, I bought one of those like mounts, those like shock mounts that stay inside the drum. Oh my God, why did I wait so long to do that? Now I'm looking into everything. Now he's like, do the rest of your drums and put plug-in ports on them.
So I have one kick drum, my Eames kick drum, which I had built in 1997. I still use it for a lot of gigs. It up until I got my Gretsch kit last year, it was my only like sort of primary gigging kit, and still really is like probably 60% of the gigs I play with the Eames kit. Certainly the casual gravity gigs, the Eames kit's the right one for it, because those birch drums just sing, and for those hard rock songs, it's good. But when I had it built, I had a D112 mounted inside. And I have exactly what you're saying, a port, an XLR port on the outside of the kick. I could run the kick without a hole in the head. I choose to put a hole in the head because I like the feel and the sound. And I use a kick port, which it's a 20-inch kick, but the kick port really helps lower that fundamental. So I choose to do that, but I don't have to. And engineers love it because the mic is always in exactly the right place. It's a D112, which, today, if I were doing it, I'd probably have chosen something different. But this was, 30 years
that's
ago
what
or
you
something
used.
like that. That's what everybody used. It still sounds good. And the good news is every engineer knows how to deal with an AKG D112. Like there's zero. It's like, they're like, great. And I always tell engineers, I'm like, hey, look, this is an FYI, not like a mandate or even a request. But just so you know, there's a D112 in my kick that you can use if you want. And I've never had one be like, oh no, that would be terrible. And then they start looking in the hole. They're like, where do I plug in? I'm like, no, come around to the side. They're like, there's an XLR port on the side of your drum. I'm like, I know. I would not do it in a snare drum.
Gotcha.
I don't think that code has been cracked. Someone may write into feedback@giggabpodcast.com and tell us about this. But the toms, I would be interested in seeing how that works. It would, I don't know.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm glad.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm glad I did the Beta 91, but the rest of it for now, it's like, maybe we'll get around to that.
Yep.
Speaking of snares, I don't know if I ever told you about what snare I've been using. There's a guy in Des Moines, Iowa, 2 hours away from me. He just up and decided, I don't know, 6-7 years ago that he wanted to make drums. Like he's a drummer, and he's like, I'm going for it. I got the equipment. and he reached out and he said, I'd really like to make you a custom snare drum, no cost. I need your help, spread the word. I was like, oh, duh. Sure. Like, even if it sucks, I'm like, that's cool. I didn't pay anything for it, and so he made me this absolutely beautiful snare. He took our exact tone of pink and wrapped the whole drum in pink. And then he lettered the Pork Tornadoes all the way around it, black hardware, black rims, to go with our color. And the look of it was absolutely incredible. And I was like, well, if anything, this is just going on my wall. Like it's I hope it sounds good, but if it doesn't, it's a piece of art. But I'll tell you what, I've been using this now for 7 years as my main drum. And I always forget, like, I'm just used to how good it sounds, right? Like, that's just how it always sounds. And
what material is it made of?
It's maple, I believe.
Okay. All right. Yep.
I think it's
What was the drum maker's name that I can put it in the show notes? So the company's
called Hero Drumworks.
Okay.
Hero,
cool.
and he's got a great badge.
I should mention that the internal miking system I use is from the May company. Is that the same one you're using?
No, I think I just bought I found something really cheap that has the elastic bands, and I don't know what it was.
Yeah. That but might also be May. They have it could be. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so Hero Drumworks. Yep.
Yeah, Hero Drumworks. So this drum is absolutely incredible, but I'm used to it. It's like driving a really nice car. You get used to it, but then you maybe drive another car or someone comes up to tell you how nice the car is. And I just had it happen again. This sound guy at the place in Omaha we played was just like, oh my, he came up to me after sound check, like, that is what a snare drum's supposed to sound like. I'm like, really? Oh man, these heads are kind of on their last leg. I just had a long month. And he's like, no. That's one of the best sounding snares I've ever heard. And then the opening drummer said the same thing after the show. So I keep forgetting to spread the word about it, but this guy will make you custom drums, like whatever you want, full kit snare drums to your specifications. And he also just has a ton of great stuff in general that he just says, oh, here's an idea. I'm going to put this together and here's a cool finish. And so if anybody out there thinking about
inexpensive,
custom stuff,
this reminds me. So my custom kit is like I mentioned, the one that I have the internal drums in is an Eames kit. And they're from nearby here. When I bought it, I was in Austin, Texas, so I had to have it shipped to me. But they've changed owners. Like the guy who created the company sold it, and I believe he passed on, Joe McSweeney. But when I got the stuff, it was super inexpensive. Like, I got a custom drum set with whatever 5 pieces or something for and this is the 90s, but it was still like $2,100 or something. Looking at Hero Drumworks, they're kind of in the same realm. Like, you can get a 4-piece maple kit for $2,400. That's I paid way more than that for my new Gretsch kit. And I didn't, it wasn't custom. Gretsch did not build this for me. That's really something.
Yeah, his name's Cody. He's an awesome dude, local to me, to Des Moines area, and just makes a good product. And I think if anybody out there's looking at it, think about it, because man, there's nothing better than I have a pink snare drum that has my band's name on it. It's a talking point. Everybody loves to talk gear. All of a sudden, sound guy wants to talk to you about it. And then the fact that it sounds, and we made a couple adjustments. He put on some of the taller hoops, you know what I mean? Where they stick off the drum a little bit further.
Yep.
And that's not my style. I'm a rim shot guy, and I just I couldn't quite get it to where I was used to it. So we've got some lower ones on there, and man, I haven't touched the thing. It's been 7 years. Other than new heads, it's been a workhorse for me. And I've got a DW American Custom. I've got this old 1999 DW that I used to tour with, and both of them just sit there. They I don't even use them anymore.
Yeah, there's something to be said, and I'm glad you brought this up, because there's a lot of value in finding those, boutique instrument makers, be it drums or guitar or bass or whatever, that don't charge an arm and a leg. I can buy a snare drum from this guy for $500. I also paid more than that for my Ludwig Black Beauty, which is kind of my current workhorse. And It's $700 or whatever. I think that's what I paid for the Ludwig a couple, 8 years ago or something. Like that's a fair price. It was like, okay, great. Yeah, no problem. Like, that's fine. But you're going to find fair and even affordable pricing.
Yeah.
And you get this, lovingly handcrafted instrument that not only is probably going to sound good, but is yours. And it's, like my snare drum, my Eames snare drum that I use my Black Beauty in most scenarios now, just because the Eames being wood in smaller rooms, it's birch. It's 24 plies of birch. It has a lot of presence, and in the right scenario, it's awesome. So I bring both to the gigs. I probably wind up using the Eames 30% of the time and the Black Beauty 70%. But it's got my name engraved inside it and the date that he built it for me. It's got I had him stain it in purple because I like purple. And look for these things, and you don't need. I think Eames is probably still a great option. I don't know the guy who's running it now, but I would imagine that it's the same vibe. In fact, a friend of mine just bought an Eames kit. So you got Eames and you've got Hero Drumworks. We'll put links to these folks in the show notes because they don't need to be local for you to go buy them. But it is kind of fun when you get to go and sit and talk with the person who is then going to go and make your drums or your instrument for you. And you get it at a fair price.
I got one more drum gear if you want to talk about it.
Sure. Are you using, I got to ask though, on your snare, you're still using the BFSD as like kind of a thing, the big fat snare drum?
Actually, I just went away from it, man.
Really?
I was having a problem where I just like, I don't know, like I needed a change in sound a little bit. It had become my signature sound, just this.
Yeah.
Like a flat, kind of dry.
Yeah.
And I love that thing, especially in the studio for some reason or recording. But live, I was just like, let's change it up here. And so I pulled the ring off and like hated the way the drum sounded because I had tuned it to go with the big fat snare drum. So I kind of wiped the slate clean, got new heads, started over, and now I'm just loving this open. Big. Maybe it's because I've been outside, like outdoor venues. Like, I wanted to
certainly outdoor venues. I don't use the BFSD. Indoor gigs, I absolutely use it.
And I might go back to it. But I love that. I love that product. But I've been endorsed for the last couple of years by Collision drumsticks. Have you ever looked into them at all?
No, I know. I mean, I know of them, but I haven't looked into them. Yeah.
I was on a path there where I was like trying to get more endorsements and, thinking like however I can get it. Like, let's find a stick company. Let's find a cymbal company.
They're not from the US, right? They're UK. Okay. Yeah.
And I applied for an endorsement there and got it. And then said, oh, fine, whatever. Like sticks are sticks. I'll use them. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you two things about this company. One, the endorsement thing, anybody can get endorsed by them. They're one of those companies. They're like a Soul Tone Cymbals where it's like, just show me that you're interested and we'll endorse you. And I didn't realize that off the bat, but they do have different tiers. I'm at the top tier of the endorsement. Nice. So whatever, there's some value to that. But if you're in that mindset of like, I want to build a resume as a drummer, this is a very good company to start at least get your name on something, to be like, I'm endorsed by this company. But number two, I'm honest with you, like I did it just for the endorsement. But number two, now I'm 5 years into playing this stick and it's my stick. I absolutely love these sticks. And I'm not just saying that. I don't get anything from you guys buying them, but I bought I buy them in 50 bricks of 50 because I'm like, might as well. I need them,
Yeah, of course.
And I spent about $15 a stick or a pair, 15, 16.
Yep.
And these were engraved with the Pork Tornadoes logo on it, like burnt into the stick. You could have your signature put onto it. You could put your band's logo onto it, which is like after every show, I throw some sticks in the crowd, give them to little kids, and your name is on the stick. Your band's name is on the stick. And I love these. I always like longer sticks, so I play the 5A Reach, which means it's a little bit longer. It's kind of like the X5A is what I used to play for Vic Firth. I don't know if you're thinking about changing your sticks up or you kind of want that endorsement.
Well, but I think for anybody playing an instrument, if you're playing regularly in a band, you are big enough to start applying for endorsements. It doesn't mean they're just going to shower you with tens of thousands of dollars worth of free gear. it often means you just get an artist discount. And like you said, Mike, there's, different tiers to it. But yeah, I had an endorsement years ago with Capella drumsticks. I loved their sticks. Like, they just fit my hand. They are balanced perfectly. It's exactly what I want. And they went out of business.
Yep, that's the problem, right?
And I still have several pairs of those, so that I had custom sticks made for me by a local drumstick maker to match the Capellas. And then I found that one thing that I asked Capella to do years ago was they sent me a batch of sticks, and I'm like, could you put another batch of glaze on this?
Yeah.
And so they were like, yeah, sure. And they sent them back, and I'm like, oh, this is what I like. This is what I like. Yeah, that's the one, right? And that has been my problem. It's, well, first of all, finding a stick that balances right in your hand the way you play. Obviously, that's important for anything. But then I had completely forgotten about this double glaze thing until I got an email from Vic Firth about our new Vic Firth double glaze sticks. And I'm like, wait a minute. I went back through my email. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I asked for this on my Capellas. Like, it wasn't something they offered. And it was like, nope, I did. And I talked to the folks at Vic Firth, and they're like, yeah, well, our blades are the same blade for the 5B sticks. They're the same blade as the Capella blade that you used to cut the tip and the whole thing and the taper and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, so I bought like 10 pairs of the double glaze just to test them out. And it's like, okay, this is my stick. I don't need. The thing is, when I go and grab those Capellas, they are slightly different. And it's like, oh, this is actually my stick. But the Vic Firth 5B,
it's close enough.
It's super close enough. Yep. That is my stick. But yeah, the double glaze, when they came out with it, I asked them, I was like, okay, how are these selling? Because if they're not selling well, I want to buy 1,000 pairs right now.
You need to keep making these.
You have, if you're not going to keep making these, you need to tell me. And actually, I owe them, and it's been a couple of years since I've emailed with them, so maybe I need to this will remind me to shoot them a note. I was going to go visit them, and then that COVID thing happened in 2020.
Oh yeah,
it's
that
like,
thing.
boop, not going to happen.
Weird.
So
what a weird thing.
Yep. Do we have anything else to talk about? You have a new baby and all that stuff. The gigs have been going okay, even though you're not sleeping and all that.
Gigs have been wild. It's been probably the best summer of our life, but it's been like so much. Like I'm a bit stressed out. In fact, our last I think we did like 33 shows in 3 months or something like that. That is when we get our bread and butter around Iowa. And as of last weekend, things are kind of back to the like, I'll average one a week for the rest of the year, and that's like,
that's still a lot. One a week is that's a respectable schedule. That's pretty crazy.
We'll do 55 to 60 a year. And I thought for sure when we all had kids that was going to mean the end of the band. But for some reason, it's kind of invigorated all of us. It's this idea that, like, we are so lucky. We are so lucky to be getting paid what we're getting paid to play music, and to have people come out and enjoy it and love it. And we know that there is a finite, like, life is finite. This band is finite. Everything is. We could at any point, this band could just completely break up or implode, or nobody wants to hire us anymore. We're one wrong social media post away from being canceled. You know what I mean?
Aren't we all?
Like, yeah. And so I think we've had to make some major adjustments here, right? Like we're hiring even more crew, and we're having someone drive the truck and trailer, which is my truck and trailer, to and from the gigs now, so that I have time to be home and I can actually walk off stage at 10 o'clock and actually get in a third vehicle, and boom, I'm heading home instead of 11:30 the trailer door closes, and now that 2-hour drive's feeling a little too far. I got to stay in the hotel. So we're making some concessions. We're bringing on like essentially like a tour manager at this point that can handle the day-to-day stuff that we don't want to. We just want to show up for sound check, play the show, and go home. And so we're spending a little more money, but at the same time, it's the only way that I think we can sustain.
That makes sense.
And
it's really smart. Is treating your band like a business, and the way you expand a business. They always say, if you're a salesperson and you want to double your sales, hire an assistant, right?
Right.
You need you will delegate it out. And I say that I am an awful delegator. Like I am terrible at it.
Me too.
Terrible at it. But I force myself to do probably 30% of what I need to be doing, but it's enough to make things a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And it's okay to do that with your band too. Yeah.
I think I heard you say this, that you said if you are hiring someone, find somebody who does it 80% as good as you do it. And then at that point, it's good enough. It's I promise you it's good enough.
Well, that actually came from a guest on our Business Brain
that's what it
podcast
was,
years ago. But yeah, his whole metric was I am a control freak, and so I know, and of course you're wrong when you know this, but it doesn't matter. You know it, and so your perception is reality. I know that no one else can do whatever this job is as well as I can. So his mind hack was hire somebody who can do it 80% as well as you, and at least that frees me up to do the other work. Now, of course, what you find and what he finds and what we all find when you do this is you can actually hire people that wind up being better than you at any particular job. And hopefully you do find people who are better than you. Like, that's the goal. But in your mind, you think nobody can do this as well as me. So you have to set the bar a little low, and then they'll beat it, obviously, because they're doing just that job, whereas you were trying to do 17 jobs, and you weren't doing it as well as you could do it either, buddy.
Exactly.
So yeah,
it's wild. But it's good. Nice to get into fall here. Got a month-old baby, so that's 2 little girls for me. I chopped all my hair off. That was I needed a change, just something in my life to change hygienically. So I'm like, damn, hair's going off. I feel faster now. I can drum faster.
That's right. Well, you made the system more efficient. I always say when I take something apart and I put it back together and there's like 3 screws left over, but it still works. Like I made it more efficient than the manufacturer. You took off your hair. You got to be more efficient. Like
still works.
Still works. That's awesome. Well, thank you for taking time out of your sleep schedule to talk with all of us. Tell people where you want them to find you, if you want them to find you.
Yeah, search Pork Tornadoes on any platform. YouTube, we got tons of videos there. Spotify, Apple Music. If you like podcasts, you're listening to this. We talk classic movies, 80s, 90s, 2000s movies. We just did That Thing You Do. It's coming out in a couple weeks. That's such a great music movie. And there's a lot of perspective from us as musicians watching that movie. So that podcast is called Confused Breakfast. Something fun for you to listen to after Gig Gab. You know what I mean?
There you go. Yeah, it's a great show. I love that movie. In fact, to my first Casual Gravity gig, as you mentioned, they wear black T-shirts that are either rock and roll or ironic or offensive or something. And to one of the gigs this weekend, Tom wore it looked like a Straight Outta Compton shirt, but it said Straight Outta Your Mom, right? Which is great. I wore my it looks like a Ramones shirt, except instead of the Ramones, it says the Wonders. From that
is it
thing
the
you do.
Oneaters or the Wonders?
It is the Oneaters. It is the Oneders, and it has their names around it, including the bass player, because that was his name in the movie. Yeah,
I think, and I won't stop. I won't keep going here because I can talk forever about it. But I think that is a slag. That is a slag at bass players. 100%. I think it's 100%. Just like they never even talk about him. They never say his name. At the end he goes, "Yeah, we're real good." He's talking to Del Paxton. He goes, "Yeah, we got Jimmy and we got Lenny and we got me." And then he pauses and then he goes, "And we got Faye." Like he doesn't even, he says Faye before he even thinks about the bass player.
Yeah, it's correct. That's
correct. Awesome.
It's awesome.
Sorry, bass players.
Yep. And in the middle of the shirt, the reason I wore it was like, I need to come into this gig confident, even though I have all the reasons in the world to not be confident about this, because I've never played with this band live. I don't know the songs as well as I want to know them. I'm going to be reading literally drum sheet music for half of the material tonight. I should be scared, and I am scared. And that, at a level, that's a good thing because it makes me alert and focused. But I need to come in confident. And so I thought of Guy Patterson's line in it, "I am Spartacus," right? In that movie. And the shirt in the middle of it says, "I am Spartacus."
Perfect.
It buried in the, you would never see it unless you looked at it. But I was like, okay, I'm putting this on for me.
I can do this.
I can do this. And I did. Yeah, it was great. Yep.
Nice, man.
Sweet. Well, it is that time. Thanks for hanging out, Mike. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Feedback at giggabpodcast.com. Go to giggabpodcast.com. Sign up for our mailing list. Follow us on Instagram at giggabpodcast. Mike, 3 more words, please, my friend.
Always be performing.
Perfect. Sweet.
Cool, man. That was a long one, but
That was
good.
fun.